The Miracle of Salt, Water, and Iron by Kevin David Mayle II. Foundational Biology. This book is for the kid that's been going to the gym, lifting the weights, coming home and dieting, exercising, and putting in that dedication. Or even if you just go to the gym and move around for a little bit and then live a normal life outside of it. I'm here to tell you that the ideological lines that we've drawn between ourselves, vegan, carnivores, liquid diets, whatever, they're all bullshit. And at this point, they're just tools used to divide the common person, to make us think that we're better than one another, or to give us bad advice so that we're always reaching for impossible standards. I'm a layman in 100% of everything I've studied coming into this. My background is in insurance, finance, and business administration. This information was always there, at least since the 2010s for some things, but they've always kind of gatekept it. You know what I mean? They want to sell you different ideologies, so they can't teach you the truth. This book is meant to be a unifying truth for all means and methodologies for consumption. Regardless of religious practice or any form of restrictions, if you follow these guidelines, you'll follow the same ways of the people in the blue zones or the people who live the longest on this earth. And I think that counts for something. So remember, eat that fucking fried chicken, get an extra slice of pizza, and enjoy your life. Stop when you're done eating. Stop when you're not hungry no more. Focus on satiation and try to eat more strategically. Like a computer, you know what I mean? Don't ever let nobody make you too scared to go to the gym and work out in front of them. Don't ever let nobody make you think you're too scared to stand in your own square. Be true, be fervent, and be authentic in everything that you are, young black man. And never, ever behave. Part 0, Foundational Biology. How the body processes food. Before we dive into carnivore versus vegan, before we argue about what's optimal, we need to understand the basics. How does your body actually process food? What happens when you eat a steak? What happens when you eat a sweet potato? This section is the foundation, or the stuff that both sides agree upon. Once you understand this, everything else will make sense. 0.1, protein metabolism. What happens when you eat protein? Let's walk through this step by step from the moment you take a bite to the moment your body uses it. Number 1, the mouth. You can't shove a turkey leg up your ass, you know what I mean? Like, food enters in through the mouth. Your teeth break it down mechanically, that's just chewing. Nothing chemical happens to protein yet. That comes next. Number 2, the stomach. This is where the magic starts. Your stomach produces hydrochloric acid, or HCl. That's powerful stuff. I mean, we used it in science. This has a pH of about 1.5 to 2. For reference, battery acid is 1 pH. Your stomach acid is almost as acidic as battery acid. What does this acid do? This denatures protein. Now, denatures. Let's break down what that means. Proteins in food are folded up. Imagine like a tightly coiled rope, all twisted and compact. That's how proteins naturally exist, but your body can't digest them when they're folded like that. So stomach acid comes in and denatures them. That means it unfolds them. It loosens that tightly coiled rope into a straight string. It's like untangling a ball of yarn. Or, for example, stomach acid denatures protein, unfolding them so enzymes can break them down. Now that the proteins are unfolded, the next player enters, pepsin. Pepsin is a digestive enzyme, and it's produced in your stomach specifically to break down proteins. Here's a memory trick. Pepsin or peptic, that's related to stomach and digestion. Same with Pepto-Bismol. Same root word. What does pepsin do? This cleaves proteins. All right, and I'm sure you're wondering, hey, you sneaky motherfucker, what does cleaves mean? Cleaves rhymes with leaves, and it's simple. That simply means to cut or to split, like a meat cleaver cutting through a roast, or scissors cutting through a rope. Pepsin cleaves those unfolded proteins into smaller chunks called polypeptide chains. Think of it like this. Stomach acid untangled the rope. Now pepsin cuts it into shorter pieces. Pepsin cleaves smaller proteins into smaller polypeptide chains in your stomach. Step 3, the small intestine. The stomach got the process started, but the small intestine finishes the job. Here, 2 more enzymes come into play, trypsin and chymotrypsin. Trypsin begins breaking down those peptide chains into even shorter pieces. Or, for example, trypsin breaks peptides into shorter chains in the small intestine. Chymotrypsin. Chymotrypsin works right along trypsin. They're a team. Together, they chop down those protein chains down smaller and smaller. Chymotrypsin and trypsin work together to break down proteins into shorter chains. But we're not done yet. Those short chains still aren't small enough for your body to absorb. That's where the brush border peptidases comes in. Peptidases. These are enzymes that sit on the lining of your small intestines, or the brush border. They take those short chains and split them into individual amino acids. Think of it like this. Stomach acid untangles the rope. Pepsin cuts it into shorter pieces. Trypsin and chymotrypsin cuts it into even shorter pieces. And peptidases cuts it into individual threads, or the amino acids. Brush border peptidases cuts the chains into individual amino acids. All right, now we've got individual amino acids out of these like strings that the protein have been broken down into. Try to imagine this with me. One day I'll get in the budget to have like one of those weirdo Zach D film animations going while I explain this. Actually, no, I don't want something that cringe. All right, next we have absorption. Now we've got individual amino acids floating around in the small intestines. These all get absorbed through the intestinal wall and enter your bloodstream. And from there, they travel to your liver. Step 5, the liver then decides what to do. Your liver is the metabolic gatekeeper. It looks at all those amino acids and says, okay, what do we need right now? If your body needs to build the muscle, repair tissue, or make enzymes, those amino acids get sent by the liver where they're needed. But if you ate more protein than what your body needs right now, the liver has 2 options. Option 1, gluconeogenesis. Let's break down that word. Gluco, that means glucose or sugar. Neo, that means new. And genesis, that means creation. Gluconeogenesis means making new glucose from non-carbohydrate sources like protein or fat. So if you eat a ton of steak and your glycogen stores are already full, your liver can convert those excess amino acids into glucose. Example sentence. Excess amino acids undergo gluconeogenesis, converting them into glucose for energy. Or option 2 for the liver is lipogenesis. Lipo means fat, and genesis is the creation. Lipogenesis means creating fat from other sources. If your liver decides that you don't need protein as glucose either, it converts it into fat and then stores it. If you eat too much protein, your liver uses neogenesis. I'm sorry about that. Your liver uses lipogenesis to convert it into fat for storage. Now we're on the 9 essential amino acids. This is what your body actually needs from the proteins. There's 20 amino acids total, but your body can only make 11 of them on its own. There are 9 other essential amino acids that you must get from your diet. Here they are. Practice these with me. We have histidine, isoleucine, leucine, lysine, methionine, phenylalanine, threonine, tryptophan, and valine. If your diet is missing even one of these, your body can't build proteins properly. That's why protein quality matters, and we'll get into that later. Muscle protein synthesis, or MPS. If you're lifting weights or working out or just trying to maintain muscle as you age, you need to trigger muscle protein synthesis, or MPS. Here's what you need. That's 0.7 to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight for active individuals. Every high school athlete hears this from their coach. Make sure you eat 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. And that's not bro science, it's real. But it's not about total protein. It's also about how much you get per meal. The leucine threshold. Remember leucine, one of those 9 essential amino acids? Leucine is the most important amino acid for building muscle. It triggers a pathway in your cells called mTOR, which basically tells your muscles, okay, time to grow. To activate mTOR, you need at least 2 to 3 grams of leucine per meal. Leucine triggers the mTOR pathways, initiating muscle protein synthesis. So, just as a quick summary for protein metabolism, you eat a protein, a steak, chicken, tofu, beans, doesn't fucking matter. Stomach acid denatures it or unfolds it. Pepsin cleaves it or cuts it into chunks. Trypsin and chymotrypsin breaks it down even further. Pepsidasis moves it into individual amino acids. Amino acids get absorbed into your bloodstream. Your liver decides build muscle, convert to glucose, through gluconeogenesis, or store it as fat, lipogenesis. And if you're active in eating enough leucine, you trigger muscle protein synthesis. Got it? All right, let's move on to carbs. 0.2, carbohydrate metabolism. What happens when you eat carbs? Whether you eat white bread, a sweet potato, or table sugar, your body breaks it down into the same exact thing. Simple sugars. Let me show you how. Step 1, the mouth. When you start chewing bread or pasta or rice, your saliva immediately gets to work. Your saliva contains an enzyme called salivary amylase. Salivary amylase is the enzyme that starts breaking down starch, the complex carb in bread, potatoes, and rice, into maltose, a simpler sugar. Salivary amylase begins breaking starch into maltose right inside your mouth. That's why if you chew a piece of bread long enough, it starts to taste sweet. The amylase is converting the starch into sugar in real time. It's kind of incredible if you think about it. I mean, we're just as convoluted and disgusting as the creatures from The Thing. We just move a lot slower. Step 2, stomach. Here's the thing, not too much happens to carbs in the stomach. The stomach acid holds the amylase from working, so carb digestion basically pauses here. But don't worry, it picks right back up in the small intestine. Step 3, the small intestine, where it all happens. The small intestine is where carbs get fully broken down. Your pancreas releases pancreatic amylase to continue what salivary amylase started. And then enzymes on the lining of your small intestine, or the brush border, finish the job. Here's the key players in this process. We have sucrase. Sucrase breaks down sucrose into glucose and fructose. Next, we have lactase. Lactase breaks down lactose, or milk sugar, into glucose and galactose. If you're lactose intolerant, your body doesn't produce enough lactase. So lactose just sits in your gut undigested, and bacteria ferment it, causing gas, bloating, and diarrhea. Not fun. But lactose intolerant ladies, hit me up. Maltase. Maltase breaks down maltose into glucose plus glucose, or 2 glucose molecules. Maltase splits maltose into 2 glucose molecules like such. Isomaltase. Isomaltase handles the branch points in starch molecules. Basically, it deals with the complex parts of starch that the other enzymes can't reach. The end result is 3 simple sugars. No matter what carbohydrate you eat, white bread, sweet potato, table sugar, pasta, rice, it all breaks down into 3 simple sugars. Glucose, the primary one. This is what your body uses for energy. Fructose. This is found in fruits, table sugar, and high fructose corn syrup. And galactose from dairy. Now, here's an important note. We have complex versus simple carbs. Now, you've heard people say, eat complex carbs, not simple. Here's the truth. Molecularly, they all break down into the same simple sugars. So what's the difference? Complex carbs, like vegetables, whole grains, differ from simple sugars like refined sugar in 3 ways. Fiber content. Fiber content slows down absorption and makes you feel full. Next, we have nutrient density. Nutrient density, they come with vitamins and minerals. And last but not least, glycemic response. Glycemic response from vegetables and whole grains don't spike your blood sugar as fast. But at the end of the day, your body converts them all into glucose, fructose, or galactose. What does your body do with glucose? Once glucose is in your bloodstream, your body has 3 options. Pathway 1, immediate use. Glycolysis. If your body needs energy right now because you're working out, thinking, or moving, glucose gets used immediately. Here's how. Glucose enters your cells through GLUT4 transporters. GLUT4 transporters, these are the little protein doors on your muscles and fat cells. Insulin opens them up and glucose flows inside. Once inside, glucose goes through glycolysis, my fault. A process that breaks down into pyruvate. Pyruvate is the end product of glycolysis. From here, your mitochondria use it to produce ATP, or cellular energy. All right, here's a couple facts to keep us engaged. We have high intensity exercise, sprinting or heavy lifting that burns glucose preferentially. Your brain uses about 120 grams of glucose per day, or ketones if you're adapted to low carb. More on that later. Pathway 2, storage as glycogen. If you don't need energy right now, your body stores it as glucose as glycogen. Think of glycogen like a gas tank. When you eat carbs, you're filling the tank. Your body has two glycogen tanks. Liver glycogen that holds to 100 to 120 pounds, 100 to 120 grams of glycogen, and this regulates your blood sugar. When your blood sugar drops, your liver releases glycogen to stabilize it. Muscle glycogen, 400 to 500 grams per capacity. This is the local fuel reserve for your muscles. But here's the catch. Muscle glycogen can't be released into the bloodstream. It's locked into your muscles for their use only. Insulin activates an enzyme called glycogen synthase, which builds glycogen from glucose. The saturation point. Now, here's the critical part. Once glycogen stores are full, excess glucose must go elsewhere. That leads us to pathway number 3 for the liver. Pathway 3, the conversion of fat, or de novo lipogenesis, DNL. This is what everyone's worried about, and they should be. When glycogen stores are saturated, meaning your gas tanks are full and you keep eating carbs, your body has no other choice. It converts excess glucose into fat. This process is called de novo lipogenesis, or DNL for short. Let's break that term down. We have de novo, that's new. Lipo, that's fat. And genesis, that means creation. So de novo lipogenesis means creating new fat from non-fat sources, in this case, from glucose. How DNL works, step by step. Here's what happens in your liver. Here's the process. The glucose is converted into acetyl-CoA. Think of acetyl-CoA as the fat-burning building blocks, or the fat building blocks. This is where fat synthesis starts. Step 2, acetyl-CoA is converted into malonyl-CoA. This is the rate limiting step, meaning this is where your body controls how fast fat is made. It's controlled by an enzyme called ACC, or acetyl-CoA carboxylase. And this is essentially where the assembly line starts. An enzyme called fatty acid synthase chains those malonyl-CoA units together, like snapping Lego blocks together to build fat. The result is palmitic acid. Palmitic acid is a 16-carbon saturated fat. It's the same fat found in palm oil, beef fat, and your body fat. Your body fat literally makes the same exact fat that's in the burger. Step 5. Palmitic acid can then be modified by 2 types of enzymes. We have elongases. Those make the fat chains longer, and desaturases. This adds double bonds or makes fats unsaturated. This is how your body creates different types of fats. The final product is fat packaged into VLDL, or very low density lipoprotein. Think of VLDL like a delivery truck. It carries the fat from your liver to your cells, or adipose tissue, for storage. Key things to know about DNL, or de novo lipogenesis. DNL is relatively inefficient. It costs about 25% of the energy to convert carbs into fat. Your body does not like making itself fatter. It really doesn't. Chronic overfeeding increases DNL dramatically. If you're constantly eating too many carbs, your liver gets really good at turning them into fat. And high insulin chronically suppresses fat burning. When insulin is elevated, which is after eating carbs, your body can't burn stored fat. You're locked in storage mode. The fructose exception. The hepatic wild card. Now let's talk about fructose. This one's a little different. Glucose and fructose are both simple sugars, but your body processes them very differently. Mandatory heptic processing. Heptic, or mandatory hepatic processing. Hepatic means liver. When you eat glucose, it gets distributed through your whole body. Your muscles use it, your brains use it, and your liver stores some as glycogen. But when you eat fructose, your liver must process all of it. No other organ can. And here's the scary part. Fructose metabolism is unregulated. The fructose pathway. Here's what happens when you eat fructose. From fruit, table sugars, high fructose corn syrup, soda, etc., etc. Fructose enters your liver and immediately gets converted into fructose 1-phosphate by an enzyme called fructokinase. Fructokinase is an unregulated enzyme, meaning that it has no off switch. Glucose metabolism has checkpoints and controls. Fructose metabolism, nope, full speed ahead. Fructose bypasses phosphofructokinase, and this is huge. Phosphofructokinase is the rate-limiting enzyme in glycolysis. It's the speed control for how fast glucose gets broken down. But fructose bypasses it entirely. Think of it like this. Glucose has to go through a toll booth, phosphofructokinase, that controls traffic. Fructose takes the express lane, no toll booth, no traffic control. Fructose rapidly converts into one of the three things: glycogen, if your liver stores are depleted, lactate, released into the bloodstream, and triglycerides via DNL. This is the primary fate when liver glycogen is full. The critical metabolic difference. Let me spell this out clearly now. Glucose, regulated at multiple points, distributes system-wide. Fructose is unregulated and unprocessed entirely in the liver and strongly lipogenic, or fat-producing. Research shows that fructose is 2 to 3 times more likely to undergo DNL than glucose under equivalent calorie conditions. The translation: eating 100 grams of fructose is way more likely to turn into body fat than eating 100 grams of glucose. This is why high fructose corn syrup is so bad. It's not just sugar, it's literally the sugar that your liver can't regulate, and it gets turned into fat more easily than any other carb. Thank God for RFK. All right, here's a quick summary for carbohydrate metabolism. You eat carbs, bread, rice, fruit, sugar, doesn't matter. Enzymes break them down. Salivary amylase starts in the mouth. Pancreatic amylase continues in the small intestine. Sucrase, lactase, maltase, and isomaltase finish a job. The end result is glucose, fructose, and galactose. Your body has three options for glucose. We have immediate use, that's glycolysis to pyruvate to ATP, storage as glycogen, liver and muscle. This gets converted into fat, DNL or acetyl-CoA to malonyl-CoA. Or to palmitic acid to VLDL to adipose tissue. And fructose is different. It's unregulated. Fructokinase runs wide open. This bypasses all the controls that your body has to regulate sugar and fat storage. And this is strongly lipogenic. It's 2 to 3 times more likely to become fat. Fat metabolism. What happens when you eat fat? Fat is the most calorie-dense macronutrient. It provides 9 calories per gram compared to 4 for protein and carbs. Now, let's walk through how your body processes it. The breakdown process. Dietary fats are broken down by enzymes called lipases. Lipases are the enzymes that break down fats, and they split dietary fats into 2 components, fatty acids and glycerol. Step 2, the carnitine shuttle. Once you have fatty acids floating around, they need to get to your mitochondria, or the powerhouse of the cell, to be burned for energy. But here's the catch. The long-chain fatty acids can't just waltz into mitochondria. They need a transport system. That's where the carnitine shuttle comes in. The carnitine shuttle is the transportation system that carries long-chain fatty acids into your mitochondria so they can undergo beta oxidation burning. Fun fact. This is why some people take L-carnitine supplements. I love you, Mom. They think it'll help them burn more fat. Does it work? Maybe a little. Your body usually makes enough of it on its own. Step 3. Fat provides 9 calories per gram. Fat is the most energy-dense macronutrient. Why does this matter? Because when you're trying to lose weight or count calories, fat adds up fast. 1 tablespoon of olive oil, 120 calories, all fat. 1 tablespoon of butter, 100 calories, all fat. It's easy to overeat calories when you're eating high-fat foods, but fat is also very satiating, meaning it makes you feel full, so there's a balance. Fat-soluble vitamins. Here's something that most people don't know. Vitamins A, D, E, and K are fat-soluble, meaning they require dietary fat to be absorbed. So if you're eating an extremely low-fat diet, like less than 10% of your calories come from fat, you can develop deficiencies in vitamins A, D, E, and K, even if you're eating foods that contain them. Hormone production. Your body uses fat, specifically cholesterol, to make hormones. It's going to be used in testosterone, muscle building, masculinity hormone, estrogen, primary female sex hormone, and the cortisol. This is the stress hormone. All this is made from cholesterol. This is why extremely low-fat diets can mess up your hormones. Men on ultra-low-fat diets often see their testosterone drop. Women can lose their menstrual cycles. You eat fat, butter, oil, avocado, steak fat, it doesn't matter. Lipase breaks it down into fatty acids and glycerol. Fatty acids use the carnitine shuttle to enter mitochondria. They undergo beta oxidation or fat burning to produce energy. And fat provides 9 calories per gram, or the most energy dense. Fat soluble vitamins are A, D, E, and K, and they quite literally need dietary fat to be absorbed. And cholesterol from fat is used to make testosterone, estrogen, and cortisol. Energy storage, where calories goes. Now let's talk about what happens when you eat more calories than you burn. Where does that energy go? How does it get stored? Adipose tissue types. Adipose tissue is the high-minded word for body fat, but not all body fat is the same. There's actually 4 different types of fat storage in your body. First, we have subcutaneous fat. Let's break that down. Sub, that means under, and cutaneous, that's skin. So subcutaneous is the fat underneath your skin. This is what you could pinch. This is where 80 to 90% of total body fat goes in healthy individuals. For women, it goes in their hips, thighs, and butt. Remember, glutafemoral distribution. And men, this goes on their abdomen, belly fat that you can grab. Why this matters? This is the metabolically safer kind of fat. It's not too great to have too much, but it's way better than the other types. Subcutaneous fat is fat you can pinch underneath your skin, and it's metabolically safer than visceral fat. Gluteofemoral. All right, let's break that down now. Gluteo, your butt. Femoral, your thigh bone or thigh area. So gluteofemoral fat, or fat stored in the hips, thighs, and butt area. This is where women tend to store fat. It's protective, and it's actually associated with much better metabolic health. You hear that? You hear that? So, like, women with big butts are healthier. They're healthier than women with small asses. This is science. All right, next we have visceral fat. This is the dangerous kind. Visceral fat is the fat stored around your organs, your livers, intestines, and your kidneys. How much is normal? 10 to 20% of total body fat in healthy individuals. Why it's dangerous? It's metabolically active, meaning it releases inflammatory chemicals into your bloodstream. It's strongly linked to insulin resistance, and it's strongly linked to cardiovascular disease. However, it accumulates with chronic caloric acid, especially from refined carbs and sugars. Visceral fat wraps around your organs and increases the risk of heart disease and diabetes. Next, we have intramuscular fat. This is fat stored within muscle tissue itself. Now, here's where it gets interesting. In athletes, higher MTG is actually normal and indicates good metabolic health. Why? Because athletes burn it and efficiently during exercise. In sedentary individuals, higher IMTG indicates insulin resistance. The fat is stuck there because the first person isn't burning it. Ectopic fat. That means the wrong place. Ectopic means in the wrong place. Ectopic fat is fat deposited in organs where it shouldn't be, like the liver, for non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, pancreas. This impairs insulin secretion, and heart around the like when there's ectopic fat around the heart, it goes around the heart muscle. This is a severe sign of metabolic dysfunction and what it causes. What causes this problem? Chronic overconsumption of fructose, soda, high fructose corn syrup is strongly linked to non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. NAFLD, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. This is when your liver gets packed with fat, not from alcohol, but from too much fructose. Your liver processes all fructose, remember? When you drink soda, eat candy, consume high fructose corn syrup regularly, your liver converts that fructose into fat via DNL. But some of that fat doesn't leave the liver, it just stays there. Over time, your liver just becomes a fatty liver. And why this matters. NAFLD can progress to cirrhosis or liver scarring and liver failure. And it's becoming an epidemic, especially in kids who drink soda. The fat storage mechanism. Okay, so you ate more calories than you burned. How does your body actually store that as fat? Let's walk through that step by step. Step 1, lipoprotein lipase, or LPL action. Lipoprotein lipase is the enzyme that sits on the walls of your blood vessels or your capillaries in adipose tissue or fat tissue. LPL's job? Break down circulating fats into your blood so they can enter fat cells. And here's how it works. After you eat fat, it gets packaged into chylomicrons or VLDL, which we both discussed at length earlier. These are like delivery trucks carrying fat storage through your bloodstream. LPL sits on the capillary walls and breaks down those triglycerides in the chylomicrons and the VLDL. This releases free fatty acids, which can now enter your fat cells. Here's the kicker. Insulin upregulates LPL in fat tissues, meaning when insulin is elevated after you eat carbs, your body turns up fat storage. Insulin down-regulates LPL in muscle. When insulin is elevated, your muscles can't access fat for fuel. So insulin is basically the chemical that says, store fat, don't burn it. Next we have step 2, adipocyte uptake. These are fat cells. Once LPL breaks down the circulating fats, three fatty acids enter adipocytes. Inside the fat cell, they get re-esterified, meaning they're rebuilt into triglycerides using a molecule called glycerol 3-phosphate. Those triglycerides are then stored into lipid droplets inside the fat cell. And here's the wild part. Adipocytes can expand up to 1,000 times in size. That's why people can gain so much weight. Their fat cells just keep getting bigger and bigger. Free fatty acid enters adipocytes and gets re-esterified into triglycerides for storage. Lipolysis or lipo and lysis. That's fat breakdown. Lipolysis is the process of breaking down stored fat to release it for energy. This is what happens when you're fasting, exercising, or you're in a caloric deficit. An enzyme called hormone-sensitive lipase, HSL, does the work. Hormone-sensitive lipase. HSL breaks down triglycerides in your fat cells into glycerol and free fatty acids. These get released into your bloodstream so your muscles and other tissues can burn them for energy. And here's a critical part. Insulin powerfully inhibits hormone sensitive lipase. Even a small insulin elevation, just 15 to 20 micro international units per milliliter, or it's like a weird like U, bro. It's like a U with a long, like an upside down N, with like where you go up on the other side of the N, like an H, over milliliters, suppresses lipolysis by 50%. Or what that means is when insulin is elevated, you can't burn stored fat. This is why high carb diets keep you in storage mode. Every time you eat carbs, insulin goes up and fat burning shuts down. Hormone sensitive lipase gets released from fat storage, but insulin shuts it down. This is why high carb diets make it hard to burn fat. 0.5, the insulin connection. Let's tie this all together. Insulin is the master storage hormone. It controls whether you're storing energy or you're burning it. What insulin does: glucose uptake. This signals cells to absorb glucose from the bloodstream. Glycogen synthesis. This stores glucose as glycogen. Fat storage. This activates LPL. This stores fat and inhibits HSL, blocks fat release. And then it blocks fat oxidation via melanoid-CoA accumulation. This basically tells your mitochondria, don't burn fat right now. The metabolic trap. Here's how people get stuck. Chronic high carb intake leads to chronically elevated insulin. When insulin is always elevated, fat oxidation is suppressed 24/7. Even during fasted states, insulin-resistant people still have elevated insulin. Your body is stuck in storage mode, and you can't access your fat stores efficiently, even though you have plenty of stored energy. Insulin resistance development. Here's how it happens. Chronic high insulin exposure. Your cells' insulin receptors get downregulated, or they become less sensitive. Cells become less responsive. Your pancreas has to secrete more insulin to get the same effort. Hyperinsulinemia, or high insulin, precedes hyperglycemia, or blood sugar, by years. Eventually, your pancreas can't keep up, and that leads to type 2 diabetes. Insulin resistance develops when your cells stop responding to insulin, forcing your pancreas to produce more and more. Metabolic flexibility versus inflexibility. The healthy metabolism, or metabolically flexible. A healthy metabolism can switch efficiency between fuel sources. Fed state burn glucose, fasted state burn fat. This is called metabolic flexibility. Your respiratory quotient shifts smoothly. An RQ of 0.1, that's burning pure carbs. An RQ of 0.7, that's burning pure fat. A healthy person can do both of those things. The broken metabolism, or metabolically inflexible or insulin resistant. An insulin resistant person is stuck to burning glucose even when they should be burning fat. Why? Poor oxidation capacity, accumulation of intracellular lipids, or fat stuck in muscle and liver cells, mitochondrial dysfunction, and you can't access fat stores despite having abundant stored energy. The vicious cycle. High carb intake leads to high insulin, leads to suppressed fat oxidation, leads to reduced mitochondrial fat burning capacity. Then that leads to worsening insulin sensitivity, and that leads to the need for more insulin to handle the same glucose load, and repeat. The takeaway, why this foundation matters. All diets, carnivore, vegan, keto, high carb, whatever, they work through the same biology. Your body processes proteins, carbs, and fat the same way regardless of what you believe. The difference is in what you put into those pathways, food quality and nutrient density, how your body responds, insulin sensitivity and metabolic flexibility, and whether you avoid the metabolic traps, chronic hyperinsulinemia and fructose overload. Neither carnivore nor vegan changes these fundamental processes. They just provide different inputs to the same system. Now that you have the foundation, we can examine how each approach affects each variables that actually matter. Minerals, micronutrients, bioavailability, and metabolic health.